Hello, my name is Patricia, and I'm 38 years old. It's a sad reality, but many women have faced cruelty from their in-laws, and I'm no exception. However, my experience is unique, one that many may struggle to relate to, especially when it comes to standing up for oneself and seeking justice. But in my case, I was fortunate enough to change my situation, and I'm sharing my story in hopes that it might inspire others going through similar struggles to fight back against the mistreatment they face. Everything changed the day my husband, Andrew, came to me with some heavy news. He said, "I need to tell you something important." Naturally, I was concerned and asked if everything was okay. His answer was a grave no, and then he confessed something that would alter the course of everything. He had witnessed his mother and sister committing a terrible act. This moment was a turning point because, until then, Andrew had always dismissed my complaints about his mother, Susan, and sister, Lisa. They had made it their mission to belittle and embarrass me, from ruining my clothes at family events to tampering with my food and drinks, ensuring I'd make a fool of myself in public. They even went as far as slandering my business. They were upset that I had taken their precious boy away, despite my constant attempts to explain their behavior, but Andrew had never taken my side, until now. I asked him what made him finally see the truth, and with a heavy sigh, he showed me security footage from our business, proof of their malicious acts. Together, Andrew and I run a business specializing in crochet, offering everything from baby clothes to handbags. It had been my brainchild, and we were thriving, until Susan and Lisa began their efforts to discourage me from pursuing this dream. They doubted my abilities, insulting me by suggesting I wasn't smart or skilled enough to be a business owner. They hinted that I would be better off as a homemaker or an employee rather than chasing my entrepreneurial dreams. It was clear to me that their constant undermining was rooted in jealousy. Why else would they go to such lengths to hold me back from something that brought me joy? Until now, Andrew had been blind to their cruelty, despite my tearful explanations and the evidence of spoiled food, ruined dresses, and their unwarranted criticisms of my business. But the proof he saw changed everything. The footage was shocking: two figures, masked but unmistakably feminine, one taller and the other shorter, vandalizing our shop with spray paint. Then, Andrew pointed out a detail I had missed: a distinctive necklace worn by one of the vandals. It was an exact match to a piece he had given his mother, Susan, during our trip to Hawaii. I felt a wave of validation wash over me as I realized the truth. "I see what you mean," I said, finally feeling heard. "It must be them." The floodgates opened, and I was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions: frustration and pain from Andrew's delayed acknowledgement of my struggles, coupled with a sense of relief that he finally understood what I had been enduring. I hesitated to directly accuse his family, considering their relationship, but I also longed for justice and wondered how to confront their sabotage. Just then, Andrew received a call from Lisa, which seemed almost like fate. She told him about the upcoming family reunion to welcome Uncle Jacob home for the weekend. "Are you planning to confront them about what we discovered?" I asked, unsure of Andrew's stance. He confessed that he was torn between loyalty to his family and standing by me. "I want to, but it's difficult. That's my mother and sister," he admitted. Yet, he reassured me, "If you decide to confront them, I'll support you in every way possible." As the weekend approached, we found ourselves at a crossroads: confront Susan and Lisa with the truth, or find another way to address the injustice they had caused. Andrew's willingness to support me, despite the complexity of the situation, marked a pivotal moment in our fight against the relentless hostility of his family. On the day of the reunion, we made our way to Susan's house early, eager to help with the preparations for the big family feast celebrating Uncle Jacob's return. His homecoming was a major event, given his beloved status and long absence. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation for the joyous reunion ahead. However, upon our arrival, I immediately sensed a shift. Susan and Lisa, who had always greeted us with warmth, suddenly wore expressions of thinly veiled jealousy and disdain at our presence. "Oh, you two are here early?" Susan remarked, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Yeah, Mom, we thought we'd come by to help out with the crowd," Andrew replied, ever the peacemaker. "Aren't you just the kindest?" she responded, though her eyes were anything but kind as they landed on me, as if accusing me of some unspoken crime. Then, with the smoothness of a serpent, Susan commented on the vandalism of our shop, a tragedy she had conveniently noticed. Lisa quickly chimed in, echoing her mother's feigned sorrow. Their performance was almost laughable. If not for the venom beneath their words, they could barely contain their glee, almost breaking into laughter at the deceit they had so carefully crafted. I bit back my anger. choosing to feign ignorance. Now wasn't the time for confrontation. I waited for the perfect moment to expose their treachery. Andrew played along, careful not to rock the boat too soon. We spoke in unison, our words dripping with irony. It's devastating, truly. We can't imagine who would do such a thing. Their reaction to the mention of involving the police was just as defensive as I'd expected. Lisa hastily cut in, trying to downplay the incident. Police for a minor act? Surely it was just kids messing around. Oh, Lisa, it's heartwarming how you worry about these kids, I replied, my voice thick with sarcasm. But regardless of their intentions, they need to be held accountable. After all, ignorance isn't a valid excuse for such actions. Our exchange wasn't just small talk, it was a game of strategy, and I was biding my time, waiting for the right moment to fully expose their malicious behavior. The day was still young, and the feast had only just begun. Susan, trying to support Lisa's minimization of the situation, chimed in with her usual condescending tone. Remember the foolish things you did as a teenager? Let's not overthink this. We have a party to prepare for. Her words were an attempt to dismiss the vandalism as youthful folly, but I could see it clearly. Our mention of police involvement had rattled them. Despite their attempts to appear unfazed, the tension in the air was undeniable. Andrew and I exchanged a silent, meaningful glance, an unspoken agreement passing between us to maintain our act. We joined the others in preparing for the party, cooking, cleaning, and setting up. By 4 p.m. The house was buzzing with the arrival of family members, and the long-anticipated reunion was in full swing. In the midst of the chaos, Andrew pulled me aside, his face serious. He handed me a concealed microphone. Wear this, he whispered, his voice tinged with a mix of regret and determination. I know I'm not confrontational enough to go directly against my mother and sister. I'm not the assertive figure you hoped for, but this way, you can uncover the truth on your terms. You're stronger than me. With this mic, you can gather the evidence we need for justice. I understood what he was offering, a different kind of support, one that played to my strength. I clipped the microphone on, hit the record button, and began my covert mission. It didn't take long before I found Susan and Lisa in the kitchen, engaged in a heated conversation. I lingered by the door, careful not to alert them to my presence. Lisa's voice was tinged with anxiety. She knows everything. Mom, didn't you see how she was looking at us? Quiet, Lisa, you're being paranoid, Susan replied sharply, but I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. She has no idea it was us. I'm telling you, she knows. I can feel it, Lisa insisted, her panic rising. Even if she suspects something, what can she really do about it? Susan countered, attempting to soothe Lisa's nerves. Remember, Andrew is on our side, and she loves Andrew. If she found out and tried to tell him, he'd never believe her over us. Their words were more than just a confession, they were a damning revelation of their true nature. The conversation was a detailed map of their schemes, from ruining my dress before a big presentation to spoiling my food and drinks, all in an effort to undermine me. They believed that Andrew's loyalty to them would always outweigh any doubts about their behavior, keeping their misdeeds safe from punishment. As the weight of their betrayal sank in, I could no longer contain my frustration. I'd intended to gather more evidence quietly, but the truth was out, and I was done playing their game. It was time to confront them directly. I worried that the microphone might not have captured their admissions clearly from a distance. It was critical to get closer, not just to ensure the recording was solid, but to confront them face to face. I barged into the room, feigning innocence. Hey, is there anything else we need to do before Uncle Jacob arrives? I asked, startling them. Their reactions were a mix of surprise and feigned concern, with Susan immediately chastising me for giving her a fright, claiming she had a weak heart. I couldn't resist a sarcastic jab. Not too weak, it seems, I replied, hinting at her unexpected vitality for someone her age. Curious, Susan pressed, asking what I meant. I took the bait, insinuating that I'd recently seen her in some rather energetic, if not questionable, activities, dressed all in black and wearing a mask. They froze at my description, and the brief pause was enough to tell me I'd struck a nerve. I pushed further, alluding to having witnessed something incriminating. Their defense came fast but nervous, a weak attempt to feign ignorance. I upped the stakes, suggesting there might have been another masked accomplice involved in these shady deeds. Their denial faltered, and that's when I decided it was time to reveal my trump card. Ignoring their attempts to deflect, I pulled out the video Andrew had shown me, undeniable proof of their malice. The footage played on my phone, and their faces drained of color. The silence that followed was a moment of pure triumph. Not just for confronting them, but for standing up against their relentless efforts to undermine me. The evidence was irrefutable, and it marked a turning point in our ongoing family drama. Still, they tried to deny it, brushing off the situation as something trivial, but I held my ground, emphasizing the gravity of their actions. "This is a very serious matter," I insisted, pushing the phone closer to them. I could see their expressions shift from arrogance to panic as they realized the footage directly implicated them in the vandalism against my business. Lisa quickly attempted to deflect, but Susan, desperate, hissed for silence. The pressure was too much for Lisa to bear, and, out of guilt and fear, she finally confessed. Susan's denial crumbled in an instant as Lisa admitted their crime, leaving them no escape, but rather than take responsibility, their tone shifted from confession to defiance. They taunted me, thinking their connection to Andrew would make them untouchable. They were wrong. I met their challenge head-on. "Andrew's affection for you may be strong, and maybe he won't intervene," I shot back. "But what makes you think I'll stand idly by after you targeted my business? My passion?" My voice was unwavering, my resolve clear. In a desperate attempt to erase their confession, they lunged for my phone, but I was faster, sidestepping them with ease. They threatened me, but I remained unfazed, fully aware that the evidence was securely backed up beyond their reach. "Even if you manage to take this phone from me," I said coolly, "the evidence is already secured elsewhere. Making threats now only worsens your situation." I stood my ground, warning them that their intimidation tactics wouldn't work on me. Lisa's threats grew darker, but they felt hollow in light of their exposed wrongdoing. I faced their aggression with a calm yet firm resolve, prepared to defend my livelihood against their vindictiveness. The tension in the kitchen thickened as Susan and Lisa's threats escalated into a chaotic chase. I dodged them deftly, fear mixing with determination. The moment I flung the door open, a wave of relief washed over me as I saw Andrew standing there, unaware of the commotion that had unfolded just moments before. "Help me, your mom and sister are out of control," I exclaimed, desperate for his intervention. Andrew, taken aback, could only ask what was happening as Susan quickly twisted the narrative, accusing me of being the aggressor. She falsely claimed that I had threatened them with violence and vandalism. Andrew looked torn, stuttering as he tried to find the right words. My heart sank, but I urged him to stand by me, to defend the truth against the lies his family was spreading. He remained silent, and that silence spoke volumes about his inner conflict. Susan seized the opportunity to remind him of his loyalty to them, suggesting that his allegiance would always lie with his family, not with me. Andrew tried to mediate, claiming he loved us both equally, but his indecision only deepened the rift between us. I reminded him of the irrefutable evidence he had shown me. "Look at the truth, Andrew," I said, pushing him to acknowledge the reality of what had been happening. Finally, Andrew spoke up, admitting the vandalism and harassment I had faced were unjust, but even as he pleaded for a resolution, his words seemed insufficient, as if he couldn't fully commit to standing by me. Just then, Uncle Jacob entered, blissfully unaware of the tension in the room, eager to join the celebration. He brushed past the charged atmosphere, but Susan and Lisa weren't done yet. They continued their threats, warning Andrew of dire consequences if I took legal action. Their manipulation didn't stop there. They questioned Andrew's autonomy, suggesting he would side with them out of obligation rather than reason. Andrew's silence only fueled their narrative, casting doubt on his support for me. The situation reached a breaking point, and I stormed off to join the larger family gathering at the grand dining table. Despite the turmoil within me, I forced myself to sit with an air of calm, determined not to show my anger. Andrew and Lisa followed, and though Andrew shot me glances full of unspoken words, my fury kept us silent. When Susan and Uncle Jacob arrived, the awkwardness of the moment was palpable. The meal began, but my anger simmered beneath the surface, threatening to boil over. Finally, I could take no more. In a quiet moment, I stood up, commanding the attention of everyone present. "I have something crucial to share," I announced, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. I didn't name them directly, but let the recorded argument play, exposing Lisa and Susan's malevolence for all to hear. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room as their scheme was laid bare. Lisa and Susan sat frozen, their deceit fully revealed, yet they still tried to discredit me, accusing me of fabricating the entire ordeal for attention. The dinner devolved into chaos, with accusations flying back and forth. The family scrambled to comprehend the full extent of the betrayal. Andrew remained silent, his words lost amidst the uproar, until the sound of approaching sirens cut through the noise. In a fit of rage, Susan accused me of orchestrating their downfall. I didn't do anything, I protested, still unaware of the police's imminent arrival. Then, Andrew spoke up. I did it, he admitted, confessing that he had called the authorities. His declaration shifted the atmosphere, acknowledging the wrongs done to me and pledging his support. This is about right and wrong, Andrew said, his voice firm. Mom, Lisa, it's time to face the consequences of your actions. As the police arrived, reality set in. Andrew's intervention wasn't just an act of support, it was a crucial step toward restoring justice within the family. His words marked a moment of reckoning, underscoring the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it means confronting those closest to us. The police went straight to Susan, who was making a scene, shouting as they took her away. Lisa tried to flee but was quickly apprehended. Both of them were clearly embarrassed as they were escorted out, throwing angry glances my way and calling me names. As they passed by Andrew, they called him a traitor. Once they were gone, the mood lightened considerably. We started talking about how difficult it had been to deal with Susan and Lisa, and Uncle Jacob even joked he'd rather be in jail than spend another minute with them. The rest of the family reunion went on to become one of the best we'd ever had, all thanks to their absence. Later that night, our phones started ringing with calls from the jail. It was Susan and Lisa, trying to reach out to family members. Some of us talked to them, suggesting they needed time behind bars to reflect on their actions. Others pretended the call was breaking up, and most of us ignored them altogether. Andrew's decision to call the police brought us closer, and it marked a turning point in our relationship. Susan and Lisa eventually got out of jail, but had to pay for the damage they caused. I could only imagine how that stung their pride. Now, whenever we run into each other, the smug expressions they once wore have been replaced with embarrassment and worry. Getting back at them for everything they did was incredibly satisfying.